desk making noise, but anyhow, so I'll start setting up my internal elevations now, and so I'm just bringing up a drawing of those, which I'm really not going to have to come back to, hopefully, because I can get most of the things I need as long as I know the height of the room, and then maybe this 900, I think that's, I don't know what that's actually dimensioning, because it's obviously not dimensioning the chairs, so I don't really know even if that's useful. Maybe it's the vanity and it's just on the wrong side. But I'm going to show you as well how you can get these heights by measuring afterwards, because you don't want to have to sit down and guess these measurements for all the different parts of the chairs. But actually what you can do before I show you those steps, if you want to start to work on those things, just print the drawing out and scale off to get the heights of those things, and that'll be good enough, because if you don't have a perfect measurement for the top of your chair, in other words the height from the floor to the top, it doesn't really matter because you're not designing the chair. It's going to be supplied as is from the furniture makers, and so if the height isn't perfect, that's not such a problem. But what we need to have accurate measurements for are the things you're designing, and that's going to be the height of the room, and again things like vanities and other things that you're creating and designing as part of your fit out. So I'll start with those. So again, looking at this floor plan, and so I'll just quickly go back and double check that height. It was 2700, wasn't it? Yeah. Okay, so we want to project to the left, but I don't want to be drawing that way. So I'm going to rotate the whole view, or the workspace, using this icon that comes up only when you move your cursor over that view cube in the compass. So you see, once you move your cursor there, you're going to get these curved buttons. And actually, I always forget, do you want me to take your screens over so you can see this close up? Yep, so I'll do that. Okay, so it's an easy one to miss, because it's not there until you move your cursor into that place. But once you do, again, you're going to see those curving arrow buttons. And I always think these are back to front, and that's why you'll see I'll often do it the wrong way. But in this case, it should be the bottom arrow, the bottom right arrow, I suppose, that I'm picking to rotate it that way. I suppose it is the right way, maybe I'm just thinking of it the wrong way. Yeah, so you can see there you can easily rotate it back and forth. And so this is the way we want it. And then I'm going to draw a line so I know where I'm projecting. So if you look at that internal elevation, you can tell that it's obviously cutting through the bathroom, and it's probably not cutting through the windows though, even though it's hard to tell with an internal elevation, but we'll assume that it's not cutting through the windows. And it's also probably in front of the bed, but it doesn't matter if we draw the line through the bed, we can always just draw the bed as though it's not being cut. Okay, so I'm going to draw a line, and I might just change to one of my, I don't have an annotation layer, so I'm just going to make an annotation layer, just a general one for now, and set it to be white. And I know for some of the annotation I've been saying use 0.25, which is good for text, but otherwise annotation 0.18. And so I'll make that the current layout. And then I'm going to draw my line so I know where I'm projecting and where I'm cutting through my space. So again, not through the windows, so I'm going to go on that bit of wall you've got in between the windows. You can do it on the midpoint or even just to one side, doesn't really matter. And there I'm trying to get under the bed. I'm going to turn ortho on so it's a straight line, and I'm going through the bathroom, of course, and then I'll be cutting the vanity and again that wall next to the bathroom. So maybe, you know, it could be a little bit lower than that, but you don't want to have it, of course, too far down below the bathroom wall, and that should do. So again, I've still got to finish off some things in the plan. You know, the bathroom and the door's got to be added, but I've got enough to draw that section, or the elevation. So now we've got to get some more layers. I've got a floor layer, and I'll just show you there that that floor layer has actually got a very light line weight because that's been used not really to draw the floor as such, but to show the floor hatching or the floor material. So at this point, you'll often need to break your layers up further, and you might even need to add some things to your layer names. So I'm going to change this to A floor hatch, because now I'm going to make a new layer for the floor, and I'm going to call this one A floor. Oops, sorry, just keeping it consistent. With a dash. And again, colours are up to you, but I'm going to make it maybe a green sort of colour because it probably would be concrete. And well, even though, sorry, the floor lining on top obviously wouldn't be concrete, but the floor structure would be concrete. And then I'm going to make the line weight. Well, I'll check with you. What do you think the line weight should be if it's the floor being cut in the section? Thick, that's right. As thick as you can, really. So this is going to be the heaviest line weight. And since I've used 0.5, which is quite heavy for my walls, I'll go with that for the floors as well. And that's always good for internal elevations. It's really important that you have heavy lines, and I mean this is just okay, but I think these drawings can be definitely improved by having a heavier line around the outside, and that makes them really read as true internal elevations when they've got that heavy line as a border. But also,
say it's like concrete up the top and
yeah,
down the bottom,
yeah,
and then would you have them?
yeah.
Yeah.
That's, I know what you're thinking about. No, you wouldn't. So if it's an internal elevation, you stop at the edge of what's being cut, and you don't show what's inside. So you wouldn't show the thickness of the wall being cut if it's an internal elevation.
Yeah.
And that makes it easier for you because the purpose of an internal elevation, especially for interior design, is to show you interior finishes. So you don't need to show the wall in section, but in a section you would show it. So you're thinking the right way, and for a section, like I showed you before, you would definitely show all of the structure for the walls and the floor and the other things. But here, again, internal elevations, a bit easier. You don't have to show that. It's just that you've got to think about then how to deal with things like this wall in the middle, where it is being cut, and you kind of have to show it in section. But keep it simple, just hatch it solid if you don't need to show the structure, and that works. So again, 0.5 is the line weight I'll use there, and then we'll also need some more layers for the walls. Oh no, sorry, I have got this layer already, A wall projection. Right, and you'll see in a minute why we'll need that. So that's enough. So I'll make my floor layer current. Okay, so I've got to decide where my elevation's going to go. And so by drawing a line, I'm just going to start it somewhere up above my plan and taking it across to the right. As long as it's a straight line, that's good enough for the floor. But leave a bit of distance between the plan, but obviously don't go too far, otherwise you're going to be, having to create, work for yourselves by zooming all the time. So, so again, that's up to you where you draw that line. And so then I'll change to my, so I'll do a ceiling too, so that's what I meant to do. So I'll make a layer now for my ceiling. And so here, if it's not nominated, normally you can assume that these are cut layers. But if you want to make it clear, you can always put that in the name. So you could say A floor cut. And see the wall there. So I've got A wall projection. Then the other one, it's, again, cut. But again, if it doesn't say, you can assume often that it's cut. So I've got my ceiling there, and I'll make this maybe the colour of plasterboard, which is one of those funny sort of colours. Pink or something, but it's not quite pink. It's, I think lavender is the standard colour. But really, it's up to you, because you're probably the only one who'll see it. So there's my ceiling. And, well, actually, I don't even need to make it current, because I'm going to then offset 2700 from that line up above, and then change that new line to my ceiling layer. So then I'll change to my wall layer, wall cut, and draw a line now by projecting from the intersection of that section line that I've drawn and the wall up to my ceiling. and the same on the other side. That's the really simple ones, you see it, and then use fillet, making sure that the radius is 0, and simply join those lines together. Easy. And I'll do the bottoms too. So then I'll just draw a couple more lines for the interior walls. And there's a good chance maybe just to point out a couple of commands. A lot of people, some people I think some people just like to show off that they know these commands and use them, but I don't actually find them that helpful, but I'll show them anyway. You've got these two other line drawing commands, ray and construction line. So a ray gives you an infinite line. So from any point, it'll just go forever until you trim it. And that can be useful. So if you think about drawing from, so this is a ray, drawing from here, and it will just come up without me having to zoom out. If I can just have ortho on, that will go straight up to infinity, and then I can come back and trim that at the ceiling. And once you trim a ray, then it becomes a line. So some people do that. And then the other one is construction line. Yeah, that's right, yeah. So they go infinitely. Construction lines go infinitely in both directions. But again, when you trim them, they're lines. So look, it might seem like it will save you time, but what I found is that, doing this over many years, sometimes it's easier just to draw the one line, and then when you're zoomed in to all the parts where it's cutting your walls or whatever, you can then just copy that line across to all the points that it's being cut. So if you're doing that, you probably don't need to use rays. And so you can see there, I've gotten the same thing and it's already trimmed. So I find that to be the easiest way, and now I can just trim at the bottom. And we've got the basics set out for the elevation already done. And so this is the next thing I'll just show you, is then how to maybe do some more detailed items. And these chairs are a pretty good example. So because I think you can probably all do that already. I'll actually show you what I was going to do in the next video, but I'll just do it now because I think you'll all cope with it. How do we get the measurements for things like this chair? So if you heard me saying before, you can just print it out and scale off with your scale ruler. And that's a really important technique. You've got to be comfortable doing that. It's something you'll need to do all the time. So that's one thing you could try. But I'm going to show you something that's similar. So I'm just going to make sure I've got a copy of this. And I'm going to save it just so I can get to it quickly. Okay, so I'm going to now go and insert. Which page was it? Page 11. Okay, so I'm going to go onto the Insert tab in AutoCAD and then Attach. And then make sure, before I choose anything, down the bottom it's got to say PDF. But apart from that, this is a brilliant thing in AutoCAD, because not many programs will let you insert PDFs. It's a proprietary thing. Adobe are really precious about their PDF format, and they don't give the rights to use it out to a lot of companies. So many programs don't have the option of inserting PDFs, but AutoCAD does. So I can insert that file. That's the one I've just downloaded. And then just choose the page I want, page 11. Click OK. And where's it gone? It's, oh yeah, now it's rotated, and it's also going to be tiny. Okay. But that's okay. We could have scaled it as it was being inserted, but I wanted to show you how to adjust it when you don't know the size, because you won't know what it is to begin with. So you can see there we've got a measurement. Now also I'm going to rotate it so that it's at the same angle as what I'm drawing. So just using the regular rotate tool, I'll rotate it 90 degrees. But again, the key idea here is that you want to try and find a measurement and use that to scale the image to make it the right size in our AutoCAD file. If you don't have a dimension like this, you can always use a scale bar, that'll work perfectly too. Anything that has a measurement on it. So I'm going to click onto the edge of my image. It'll take us to this PDF tab. So I'm going to go back to the Home tab to get the scale command. And I'm going to choose a base point. So that's going to be at the bottom of that dimension. And I'm zooming right in just to be as accurate as possible. So there. Notice I'm also going to the centre of the line. And you probably all think that's normal because you probably weren't taught by the old architects and drafters that taught me how to draw by hand, and it used to always be to the side of the line in the old days. So watch out for that. I know it might seem pedantic, but it's a real thing. But if it's drawn with a computer, centre of the line is where you measure always. So centre of the line, and then up to then back on the command line. So that was my base point. So now I'm going to choose reference, and then get that same point. Right, so that's where I'm starting to take my measurement. And it'll all make sense in a second, because then I'm going to zoom in and click onto the other end of that dimension. So I'm not worried about clicking exactly on it, I'm just making sure that I've lined up my endpoint with the centre of that dimension line, or it's called an extension line. So that's my 2 points. And so then how big do we want those 2 points to be? Or how long do we want the distance between those 2 points to be? Exactly what it says there, that's spot on, that's good. So yeah, 2700. So now it should be the right size. And I'm going to move that out of the way. And that's a really helpful technique, just to be able to measure something accurately in a program like this. But it's basically the same as if you printed it out and scaled off with a scale ruler. It's just that we get the chance to zoom in and really be accurate. So I can now, to check it, use the measuring tool, the tape measure, and check that that dimension that I've just used is actually 2700. And there we go, 2689, that's close enough. 10 mil, it's fine. So now I can take some measurements off this chair and show you how to start drawing that. So I'll measure to the top of the chair, and then to the floor is, what, 800. 797, so that's 800. And then, well, let's just start with that, so 800. So now coming over here, and I should have a furniture layer. Yep, there we are. So I'm going to draw a line from the back of the backrest and take it up to my internal elevation. So then the height, I'll offset that 800 from the floor line. And so then I'll just, maybe to make it clearer, take that line back. Well, sorry, they're going to be joined, so I'm going to fill it, sorry, to join those two together. Change that new line to my furniture layer. And then keep projecting lines, so all of that backrest, so those four corners, they're all, of course, at the same 800 height. So I can project from all of those up to this new 800 line. Now, if you think about what you'll see, you're not going to see this back corner. So I just need to project from the one on the right. I'm taking it up here. So the back corner would be behind there. But it's a great thing. So if you're having trouble visualising things and imagining how a section would look just by thinking about it, by drawing it this, using this method, your brain will start to tell you how it's going to look. And so I'm going to fillet these together now. So you can already tell that's what a box that's rotated would look like in section. So then the arms, we can do the same way. So come over here. So again, just taking a measurement. So the arms are, what, they look like about 600? Yep, 600. Okay, so again, offsetting from the floor, 600. change the line straight away to the furniture layer. And when you're doing drawings like this, and this is really how I learnt to draw, by doing drawings exactly like this in 2D in AutoCAD, back in 1991 or something, for some office fit outs that I had to do, and I had to work it out on the job myself, and I just started projecting off all of these detailed bits of joinery and things that I was designing, and that told me how it would look in elevation. I didn't know until I started drawing it. It was my first time, and it was, I think, a brilliant thing to be able to see all these things, rotated in different angles as they would look in real life. So again, projecting off the corners of the arms here. Right, so again, so the real tip I was going to give you is tidy it up as you're drawing. So I'm going to fill it now to join these lines together so I can see clearly that's the arm coming off and stopping there. If you've got lines going everywhere and you're not sure what they represent, it gets pretty confusing and you don't know what you're looking at. So tidy it up as you go and it'll make it much easier for you. So I've just drawn a line up there, roughly to the height I want. But now, of course, that's for the arm, so I'm going to draw a new line from my previous arm across to connect to that new line, fillet those together right away to make it clear and neat, and take this one across to where the arm, well, it's not quite there, she'll come back, but you'll see in a minute. I'll fix that up. So then if you think about where the arm comes to the back of that backrest, well, again, you can just get it by projecting a line from that corner up to here. So that's where I should bring that across. And that tells us that this part of the backrest stops at the arm. So,
Which one did you just do then?
Which-
Fillet.
fillet.
Oh, and it folds over.
Yeah, fillet without a radius just joins things at a corner like that. Yeah, I mean you could use trim, but fillet's easier if you're just joining two things. Yeah. So then to do the front of the arm, that's the last bit of the arm. Again, just projecting up to there. So again, if you keep tidying it up, it becomes much clearer, what you're looking at. And then coming over to here, so we've got then the legs. Oh, so I'll do the seat first. So the seat is what? About 400. 400. So again, offset from the floor line. Trim, this time I'll use, and of course the seat is going to be trimmed between the two arms, so here and here. Now that looks different. Oh no, that must be right. This looks different to what's in the other one, but oh no, it's right. Okay, so again, now to make it clearer, I'll put that onto the right layer and then keep trimming away. That's the really important tip. So when I trim with that seat and take away the arm, because of course the arm stops or is hidden by the seat, yeah, it starts to all become a lot clearer. And then coming back, so then the bottom of that seat and where the legs are, that is about 100, I'd say, but yeah, 100. Okay, so I'm going to again offset 100. And then now I can do a lot of tidying up. So coming back to furniture, and then I'll use fillet to get the back because I can, and then the front or the side on the right, and then trim now with this line as my cutting edge and take away the rest. So that's looking like a chair now. That's an ugly chair, but it's a chair. And
I guess it takes some practice because you don't have each thing beside each other. You've got to move the screen. So I'm just
exactly.
saying, I'll get lost on my way.
Yeah, but just keep projecting.
Reference down here on paper, maybe that's-
Yeah, well, print it out as well. Yeah,
That's like tricky.
yeah. Takes a bit of practice, but once you get it, then you can use that for every drawing you'll ever do. But there's still one more thing. Okay, so all of these things that I've drawn in the elevation there for getting the table, all of this part of the chair we could see in plan. But which part that you can see there in the chair can't you see in plan? Yeah, well, the legs, yeah. Right, so the legs are hidden in the plan. We can't see those. But we need to know where the legs are to be able to draw them here. So what you have to do is just... No, it's just because they're hidden. So the legs are under the chair. So we can't see them in the plan. But we need to know where they are in plan. Now, you don't need to do this too precisely. And it's a good chance to try it, some furniture design. Just draw a circle. And I always love this because when I made furniture for a living, I was doing the legs quite often, and I'd be turning these beautiful, bits of wood to make these legs for things like this. And so I always liked doing this stuff. And so that's about where the leg would be. Just draw one, and again, just position it roughly. It's up to you really, as long as it's a bit under the arm and a bit under the base. That's probably okay. And then use mirror, maybe. But it's up to you how you copy it. I'll use mirror and go to the midpoint at the front, the midpoint at the back, and it's copied to the other side. And then, my cursor's moving by itself. Okay, so now I'll select those two circles, and again use mirror, and this time get the midpoint on the arm, and then go to the opposite arm. I'll turn ortho off so you can see it.
That's cool. I didn't realise you could choose two things.
Oh yeah, yeah. Yeah, you can mirror it, as many as you want, yeah. So now I know where the legs are. They're probably a bit big actually, not a problem. I can select all of those circles now. Right click and go to properties, and then change them all as a group to have a different radius. Maybe 30 is better. So that's a nice thing to know. You can use properties anytime, just right click, and as long as something is selected, you can always show the properties for it, and there's a lot of things you can change in there. So I've got my circles. Now I can draw lines from the side. So for this you need to make sure you've got the quadrant snap turned on.
Because they're not visible, would they not be like in a dashed line?
Oh no, I'm going to delete. I'm not going to have them in the plan. I mean, this is just a temporary thing. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's right. But yeah, you're thinking the right way. Yeah. So so now I'll just draw up to the bottom of my chair, and I can keep drawing lines or copy that line now onto each side of those circles. So I'll turn ortho off so that you can see I'm just snapping to each quadrant on all of them. There we go. And then again, when you're using trim here, this is where it'll help you to select cutting edges. Because if I just let it trim to all of these things, I've got to pick a lot more things to cut. But if I choose the base of the chair and the floor as my cutting edges, press enter, and in one step I can just trim all of those lines back. And there we are. That's the finished chair. Yeah, do you want another one? No, I mean, look, so, yeah, you can always look in the video, but yeah, you can use that approach for everything you'll ever do in elevation. It's the same technique for everything. Don't worry about drawing the toilet too perfectly because you've got a block for that. You don't have to draw that one in elevation. So maybe I'll just show you where that is to finish off. The blocks, this is a new one. So if you want to get some of the new symbols, I've made a new folder called 2019 blocks with some of the new things I've been doing. But oh yeah, and there I've put. Oh, they're not the ones. Sorry, there's some other things there. That's for a different class. So yours, yeah, they're still in. Have you been getting them from here? You haven't, have you? You've been getting them from. Oh, yes, you have. Yeah, that's right. Blocks. Sorry. And then the elevation. There we are. There's nothing worse than drawing a toilet in elevation is painful, and you do all that hard work, and then you realise that Caroma have done that for you, and all the other toilet makers. Exactly. Yeah, Caroma, Kohler, Reese. Yeah, yeah. So, I've gone through the pain of drawing these things in section and then realised that there was a much better one already there that I could have just downloaded. So, things like that.
Can I do that again?
Insert. So?
Can I download it and then actually trace it on quickly?
Of course. Yeah. Oh, yeah, of course, yeah. And you can just explode these as well. So that's obviously a block in AutoCAD, so if you want to change it slightly, you can just explode it and then, delete lines or whatever you want to do. Okay, so hopefully that should, give you a pretty good idea about projecting, and you can do that for all of those bits of furniture as well as the main walls. The walls shouldn't be very hard. And that's really the last major thing for this one.
A lot of furniture places have their AutoCAD drawing.
Yeah.
Does that mean when we use Revit, it will read into it as well?
Yeah, look, you can, for Revit, you can bring any AutoCAD file into Revit. But you've got to remember the two programs work really differently because AutoCAD's mostly 2D. Even though it's got all the 3D stuff, I keep trying to, remind people of that, but most people are just using it for 2D drawing. So, whereas Revit is mostly 3D. So when you bring your AutoCAD things into Revit, they're going to be flat, and then you've got to model off and project still to get your 3D model. But you can definitely use that as a base, yeah, absolutely, yep. So that's really good. Yep, so you're going really well. I think if you're taking all of that in, you are. If you're taking that in at this stage, that's good because, again, it doesn't always go this quickly. So that's great. So unless you've got any other questions, I'll finish there and give you some time to try it all.